Come on. It's all right. Hey, today we have a great show. Make sure you tag your friends and all that, because we got some shy teachers in here who don't want to talk on the radio or on Facebook, but they spend a lot of time on Facebook. I don't know what the problem is.
Where y'all going?
Tell them to come in. Just ask us questions and we'll answer. Do it like that.
Get in here so I can open my door. Come on.
Our show today is about education. Ironic, the teachers are here. They might have to leave when I start talking to them.
Don't ask us look like
They might have to leave, so they might get in trouble with their leaders.
You can't
So
say anything about the school.
We're not gonna sit with y'all. That's why I
I'm
told
gonna let
y'all.
y'all talk first, then y'all step out.
Yeah. What? So we can direct the conversation. What do y'all do?
So we got a room full of teachers in here.
Y'all on Facebook right now.
And I dare somebody to say something about it.
We didn't do this for this. We just kind of dropped it off.
I know. Somebody just said, like, who donated?
The community and the students.
That's all we got.
Yeah, let's go.
The community and the students. Just hang tight back there. How about that?
Y'all are some concerned citizens of the community.
Yes.
That's all y'all are.
That's it.
That's it. We'll turn the mic, we'll turn the camera so they ain't on none of y'all.
Yeah, don't put him on camera. Somebody got warrants behind me. They got warrants. Can we get one concerned citizen of the community to come sit there? You know what I mean? Concerned citizen. We won't be on camera. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Talk about you. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Talk about you. Worst thing they could do is leave it.
3, 2, 1. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Reviving Mississippi show. I'm your host, Dekeither Stamps. We have our co-host here, Mr. Mac Epps. How you doing, Mac?
Doing good, brother. Doing good. You ready?
Oh yeah. We got cut short last week, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of education this week. I want to appreciate everyone who's been participating and engaged. We had a very informative school board meeting last night.
Right.
A lot of good information. We're going to talk about that. We're going to finish the conversation about the legislative agenda for the city in reference to education. So we're going to hold off on all phone calls until the end of the show to ensure that we can get the information out before, because sometimes the phone calls takes in a few different directions and we don't get to go through all the information that's been prepared and stuff that folks really need to know. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone who participated in the toy drive and the canned food drive. You want to talk a little bit about the canned food drive, Mike?
Well, yes. As most of you all know, we did the Sleep Out for Homelessness the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and we know that the plight of homelessness is large here in the Jackson area. So we had some concerned citizens that work with some of the youth in the community. They have a can drive, and it's very important to get the youth involved and understanding about the part of service and giving back. Their goal was to collect 500 cans. They end up collecting 571 cans.
So I want to say thank you to all of the concerned citizens, students, young folks who participated, because, teaching our young people service and teaching them, how to be actively engaged and meeting the needs of the community for yourself and teaching them self-determination is vitally important.
It's very important to understand you model that behavior. And as an adult, as adults, we have to do that for our kids. Kids do what they see. Children do what they see us do. So if we direct their path and understanding that we are here to serve, and if you can't help somebody, the last thing you can do is don't hurt them. So that's a great model to help them understand that everybody, regardless of what your position is, how old you are, you can take part and be a change agent to do something to help somebody else in need. So that's a blessing in itself, the utilizing of the resources for our children, to understand that we must serve, we must work together and teach them while they're young and ready to learn.
Right, and if you are normal watchers on the internet, make sure you give us a hearts symbol. If you're a new visitor, put a love symbol up there. We want to say thank you to everyone who also tunes in to us on the internet every week. We got folks listening from all over the world. I got a call from Richard Mombasa.
Oh yeah, over in Africa.
They tune in every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. Look at the hearts. Look at it go. Right. Look at it go.
At 2:30 in the morning, they tune in every Wednesday over in South Africa in the Zulu tribe out there. So our message that we talk about spans the globe,
right.
And also identifies that there are several places around the world that are dealing with the same issues that we're dealing right here in Jackson, Mississippi, when it comes to education, when it comes to economic development, when it comes to different types of oppression and the plight of folks in this world. They've got the same issues going on. So I do appreciate everyone from all across the world who tunes in to us on whether it be WMPR 90.1.com,
right,
or also on Facebook. We appreciate everyone. But this show today, it will be one of the most important things that you pay attention to when it comes to education. So we're going to dive right into it. Last week, we started to talk about our legislative agenda when it comes to education. We have to move forward and not just talk about education and tell the state to fully fund the MAEP program. Our issues are deeper than funding MAEP. We have several deeper issues. So that's why this year we proposed a legislative agenda that goes beyond just asking for more money or fully funding of education. The first thing on our education agenda was a resolution supporting a legislation that will require the compulsory attendance and average daily attendance count of kindergarten students. Kindergarten is vitally important. With us having a third grade reading gate, we can no longer have our children showing up to school in the first grade and demanding that our teachers get them from sitting home watching soap operas and cartoons all day to reading in 2 years. We have to push for compulsory attendance at kindergarten. That's going to be vitally important. The next issue that we're pushing forward with education is to provide an employment contract for non-certified personnel and establish a career ladder that's inclusive of a living wage. What that means is you shouldn't be trapped inside a system where you may come in as a janitor or a custodial worker or a bus driver. You're working at a school, so you should be able to use the computer lab in the school to take additional courses to complete your GED, get your associate's and bachelor's and master's degree. We have one example of this in Jackson Public Schools where we have a wonderful, hard-working person who has gone from being a janitor to is now a teacher, and they were taking classes in their off time. But now we want to duplicate that. We want to provide more services and funding for that kind of activity. So just because you may start in one place, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So in order for folks to finish at a higher level, let's provide a career path. We always talk about a shortage of teachers, a shortage of qualified teachers. Well, we got people in the building that love these children every day who have the desire but may not have the resources and time to go take extra courses. Well, if we provide that activity at school in partnerships with organizations like Jackson State University and several of our other organizations, then they could take, if you work in the cafeteria, you can come to work a couple hours earlier or stay a couple hours later and take a few classes and get that done, and then we could move forward with getting you up the career ladder. So that's what that piece of legislation will do. The next thing is the City of Jackson will be supporting legislative initiative that raise the maximum lifetime benefit cap and increase the health insurance benefits for educators and school personnel and provide health insurance coverage to school system retirees. Now we have several categories of retirees around the state who who are retired, that means they worked in Jackson Public Schools 25, 30 years, and they don't have access to the adequate health benefits that are necessary. So we're asking the state of Mississippi to move forward in helping those folks who have dedicated their entire life and career to the education of our children in some form of capacity. The next thing is we're asking the state to close the corporate tax loophole to ensure corporations pay an adequate share of corporate income taxes in the state of Mississippi. Right now, the state of Mississippi is in the hole a little bit when it comes to revenue because they cut all these taxes last year, so they're going to be looking for ways to raise more revenue and move money. So, so we got to be vigilant in this because they always cut education to go fill the gaps in other places. So now we're going to be in short. We're expecting they'll be looking for other ways. So we got to push towards restoring what they cut out last year, so they don't cut from other places. The next thing we're pushing for is to allow voluntary payroll deductions from the salary of certified school personnel for membership dues in professional organizations. You know, one of our strongest assets in the state is our teachers unions, and they could be more successful and have more strength if they were allowed to deduct the dues from the payroll deductions like several other corporations do. Well, we must move towards helping our teachers be a part of these unions so that we can advocate from the proper way and do things necessary to put pressure on our legislators and statewide elected officials to really take their foot off the neck of education. And that's one way we can do that. We also must move forward to establish and maintain quality professional development that includes technology access and training for all school employees. And this ties into the other issue. We must help folks who are in the schools every day, dedicating their lives to education, to not be locked in a career just because they may not have a certain amount of education. If you start off as a janitor, the school system should have a pathway for you to move up to be the principal of the school over a period of time. I believe that should be the case, and we got folks that are in these schools every day. Let's work with them to help them be successful. The next we're supporting legislation that will increase the minimum planning time for secondary teachers to match secondary accreditation standards. What that means is teachers need time to plan. They're being pulled in several different directions, but those planning periods need to be about planning so that then they can be as prepared as possible when those students come in those classrooms and ready to learn. So we put so many demands on our teachers, but what we don't do is allow them the proper planning time because of other requirements. Well, let's move those other requirements to personnel that are not the teachers. That's why you have teachers' assistants and those kinds of folks. But our teachers need to spend the bulk of their time planning and teaching in that rotation, getting better every day. Right. And when we listen to our teachers, they tell us, well, we don't have enough time to actually teach. We spend so much time outside the classroom doing other things. Well, what we're pushing for is for teachers to have the time necessary so that they can properly prepare and spend the bulk of their time in the classroom, because the whole purpose of a school is so children can learn. The children are not learning, and the teachers are not given the appropriate time to move forward. It causes a problem. So we're pushing for more planning time for our teachers. The next thing we're pushing for this legislative session is initiatives that fund community college salaries to the midpoint and increase teaching salaries at four-year institutions of higher learning. Now, the state has been going up on these tuitions at these state institutions for years.
Yes.
And the enrollment's increasing. Right. You know, so they've been going up on the tuitions. The enrollment's increasing. Jackson State is breaking records here in enrollment. But the teachers and professors aren't getting raises. Mm-hmm. Now, if you got more students in the classroom and all the students are paying more, why isn't the professor and educator who is in the classroom teaching the class not receiving a raise? And I know why, because the money's being diverted in other places. Well, we need to focus our attention on the classroom so that so everything we do has an impact in the classroom.
And you're exactly right. There are extra fees and things set in there. And I know from one I can speak for, I know at Jackson State, there's an extra $50 for improvement plans that are set in there. And that from all students. So if you got 10,000 students and you're doing $50 per semester, right? Add that up. That's not this, but why can't you do those things to show incentives for some of the professors? Because a lot of professors are out there I can know for a fact because they really want to help shape the future,
Mm-hmm.
and they are in a better position financially to be able to be there to do that, and they're not totally dependent on that one salary from Jackson State. So I would say the same thing for our education system. We definitely need to provide more resources to help our teachers, because one thing, I don't know if you addressed this or not about the classroom size. We know that's a major issue that a lot of them deal with. So not having the proper time to, I think it was a poor planning. I forgot how the little quote goes about poor planning, what happens. But we know they need proper time to plan, and also they need proper time to rest themselves to be ready to engage with the students.
Now, we've said before over and over again that Mississippi has used three pillars of oppression to oppress the people in Mississippi: black and white, Democrat and Republican. Public education, citizenship, the right to vote,
Right.
and labor, the right to negotiate your labor for a fair day's pay.
Right.
Now, we're about to shift the conversation in a second to talk about Jackson Public Schools, because we've been saying for a while that Jackson Public Schools has a lot of serious issues, both external, outside the school district, and internal. Outside the school district, there have been certain changes in the grading formula of schools, certain changes in the curriculum that I know have impacted the school district in a negative way, right?
Right.
But even with that, there are some internal things that need to be done. And I was at the school board meeting last night, and we actually changed our schedule this year on the city council so that we could attend more school board meetings. And the Mississippi Department of Education representative laid it out there of the severity of the situation in Jackson Public Schools. The situation it got to a point where it's all hands on deck time.
Right.
It should have been this way a long time ago, but right now the Jackson Public School District is on the verge of a state takeover. So the same entity that profits off the prisons will be in charge even deeper into the school district. And we talk about the prison, the school to prison pipeline. Well, we got to do what we need to do to ensure that our children are learning, and that the corrective action is done in the right way, so that it doesn't impact our children negatively.
Right.
So at this point, we're not at a point of finger pointing and saying who was right, who was wrong, whose fault is whose fault. We're at a point of it's everyone's responsibility. So whatever role that you play in education, whether it be myself as a city council person, or a teacher, or a principal, or a superintendent, or acting superintendent, a school board member, student, parent, and even if you don't have children that are in the school district, you play a vital role as well.
Right.
And we'll be talking about, for the rest of the show, we'll be talking about several things in dealing with our school district. And I'm going to lay out what I gleaned from the school board meeting yesterday. So the Mississippi Department of Education representative came to the meeting and basically said their position. And they talked about a sense of urgency. They talked about how they don't believe that the school district is taking things seriously. And several folks have been raising this flag for some time. We raised our flag, had different discussions, but now it's to the point where the stakes could not be higher. And while the Department of Education came in to maybe update some folks on their position, I believe they came to the meeting so that they can put it on record that they came and articulated a whole slew of things and what will happen if these things are not met. Let me just go over some of the things that they highlighted last night at the school board meeting, and they've been talking about this for a while. We've been talking about it as well. Inappropriate physical and verbal contact with students, irritable teachers, buses arriving late, students coming through metal detectors and not getting turned around when the metal detector goes off. Come to a school, can't find the principal, go to a classroom, teacher don't show up for almost the time that the class is over. That's when we talked about what teachers need other folks to meet these requirements. We put so many demands on our teachers. They have so many other obligations inside the school district. They're not spending the maximum time in the classroom. Those are some of the things that are highlighted here. They highlighted students using cell phones in class, watching movies on the cell phones in class, listening to movies, listening to music on the cell phones in class, playing games on the cell phones and in social media all the time they're in class. All right? This is serious stuff, people. And I don't want to just push it off on it's the school district. It's everybody's
Everybody plays a part. Yeah.
Parents, teachers, private citizens, everybody has a vested interest in this school performing properly. And, parents, we got to make sure that we have a well-disciplined child going to that school. Let me just say it again. In the beginning, a well-disciplined child that attends a school performs when they go to a school on time, on a bus that arrives on time, with food that's been prepared on time for breakfast. And when breakfast is out, there's a teacher waiting on them that has been allowed the proper time to prepare for that class with the proper resources so that magic can happen in the classroom. Those are the steps that need to happen. A prepared child and a prepared teacher, ready to go when the bell rings. On time, everybody's on duty, on time and where they're supposed to be. The things that they highlighted are things that you're supposed to do. So I don't want folks to think that there's some special stuff that needs to happen in a school district. Just do your job. Whether it be a child, parent, teacher, city council person, everybody do their job. We don't need to go out and find some consulting firm to come give us some new advice. We need a well-prepared teacher and a well-prepared student to meet in that magical place called a classroom and let that teacher do what that teacher do. That's what needs to happen. The noise that's in the room needs to be pushed away. So when she closes that door, and it's my position that door should have a paddle on the back of it, right? That's my position, because I know some people don't have issues when it comes to punishment and all that kind of stuff, but it worked well for me. Actually, I think I needed some more padding.
I don't think it helped.
So it helped a lot, because I could have been a whole lot worse if it wasn't for that.
Oh yeah.
But moving forward, we don't need any special stuff to happen in the classroom.
Right.
We just need everybody to do their job.
Right.
Everybody do the things necessary. And again, for those who call in, we're going to take calls at the end of the show. We got a lot more things to go over. I don't want the conversation to go a little sideways here. I want to stay focused here. Now, so MDE also reported that the Mississippi Department of Education, when they were at the schools, their presence had no impact on the school's activities. So the state is on deck,
right,
investigating, and people are still lollygagging and not executing how they're supposed to act, even in the classroom. So that shows a level of disrespect to the state and auditors who are in the classroom. If the state auditors in the classroom and children are still on the cell phone, that's a problem. They shouldn't be on the cell phone anyway. Me personally, I don't believe they should have a cell phone in the classroom. Now I got children, and my child had a cell phone there in school, but they need to have their cell phone in that locker put up during class time, right? And so I believe that classrooms are for teaching and learning. If there's an emergency, I can call the office.
Yeah, go get your children.
I know everybody wants to have instant access to their children, but your child shouldn't have a cell phone that rings in class anyway. So if you were to call that child during class time, that child shouldn't have it ringing in the class. You should call the school, and then the school ask the child to step out, come to the office, and then you make that phone call. But you shouldn't disrupt the learning of all the other children in the classroom to pass some information on. So that classroom should not be interrupted in any way from the time it starts to the time it finishes, but by the office. That's just my position on that. Next thing they identified that, and we reported this when they first came out, is that there are some stellar schools in JPS.
Right.
You know, you got one school who was a top school for proficiency in the whole state. That's Davis Magnet. You got Northwest Middle School ranked one of the top middle schools in the country, in the top 50 in all of America. So it's possible. We just have to duplicate that activity, because in those schools you have disciplined children showing up to a classroom where a teacher is prepared to do the business of teaching. And that's what we need to duplicate all around the school district. And it's going to be pressure, and it's activity for everybody. There's no time for passing the buck. There's no time for parents to pass the buck to the teachers, the city council people to pass the buck to the school board. There's none of that. The time is out for that, because I'm giving it 100 days before there's some kind of takeover action. And that's probably short. I believe that those plans are already being made.
Oh yeah, they're already drafted up.
Right. So in order for us to stop it, that means all activity that takes away from teaching and learning must stop immediately. Everything that takes away from teaching and learning must stop immediately. When it comes to from the time that child gets on that bus, everything, it should be focused on teaching and learning. Everything.
Yeah.
Because these are our children. These are our children, and this is our future that's at stake. Now, next thing, and this next is an alarming fact, but every time I say it, you know, it's now starting to take hold. We got 21 schools in Jackson Public Schools who are not performing at a passing rate. 21, right? 21 that's at an F rating. And I mean, it's totally unacceptable. And all of us play a role in that.
We do.
You know, we voted consistently to fund the schools at our level to everything we can do. We've done all the different interlocal agreements that we have known to do to help the school, whether it be providing different things. But we have to make sure that right now we don't go into a blame game, that we focus on teaching and learning so that everybody understands the situation and moves forward. We got 21 other schools who are rated at a D. So that's 42 schools in this district that are not performing in a proper way. 42. Let that sink in for a second. So, this time we're in when it comes to the Department of Education should be used as an opportunity to focus us. Because with us looking for a new superintendent, I don't want to turn this into some kind of messiah complex where we're looking for some savior. This is not. There
you go.
Martin Luther King is not coming back. We are the solution that we need, and so it's not, us hiring a superintendent or even electing a mayor is not going to save Jackson. And I've said this before and over again that no one person is the answer. All of us are the answer. All of us are the answer. Not one person. You're not going to elect a mayor and Jackson becomes better. You're not going to hire a superintendent and the school district fixes itself. All of us are the answer, and all of us can do better and be better for the benefit of our school district. Now, when it comes to a superintendent, you know, I believe that healthy organizations promote from within, but in some situations like this, you might not have the person you need. But I believe that a healthy organization will have a leadership structure in place where it's birthing the leaders of the future, where teachers are becoming principals, principals are going down to the district, and high-level teachers are going down to the district. And from that, they're being promoted up to the ranks and becoming, you know, superintendents and deputy superintendents and so forth. That's how a healthy organization can function. And we have to rebuild that. At one time, we had those different levels of leadership and continuing education that birthed the leadership necessary to move the school district forward. We have to get back to that. We have to rebuild that village concept and allow for that to go forward. Before I take some calls, I want to talk about what will happen if Mississippi Department of Education takes over the school district. I want this to sink in. You know, that's why I'm holding off on these phone calls. So I'm giving it about 10, 15 more minutes, ladies and gentlemen. They will take over the school district for the safety, security of the school district, for failing schools, and if they have 50% of the schools at risk. By law, what happens after the governor declares a state of emergency is that immediately the school board will be dissolved and all staff will be at-will employees. That means that civil service protection that all staff, all 5,000 administrators, principals, teachers, and janitors and JPS can be fired immediately. Then, they will lose accreditation and students will be qualified to transfer. Now, think about that. Let that soak in for a second. The school board will immediately be dissolved. All staff will immediately be stripped of their civil service protections and become at-will employees. The district will lose accreditation. That means diplomas won't be worth the papers printed on.
Right.
That means that also, and students will immediately have the ability to transfer. So the best and brightest of us that we do have in our school districts, parents can probably afford to take their children to Clinton or Madison or wherever, right? When we say that the future of this city depends on education, we mean it. This city does not sustain itself without a proper education system. We need teachers, parents focused on making sure that the magic happens in the classroom by having a well-prepared student and a well-prepared teacher meet up in that magical place called a classroom and make it happen. Now, some people don't necessarily like this next comment, but I've been saying for a while that, you know, everybody should go watch Lean on Me and look at Joe Clark. We need some Joe Clark action going on in several of these schools all around the city of Jackson. The leader we need for the future when it comes to the superintendent, the one we need is not the one we like. Not the person that makes us comfortable and is nice to us. We need somebody that's probably going to piss us off half the time, but has the heart of service, the heart for these children, and is committed to making it better. There are serious problems in all levels of government and education in the city. And really, I'm a firm believer that the system is doing what it's designed to do. I believe that we started to decline when we moved to the middle school system. I believe that we should go back to the junior high system where 6th graders were in elementary school and 9th graders was in junior high. I don't believe that these young folks are a 6th grader shouldn't be in a middle school with 14 and 15-year-olds. I don't think a 6th grader should be in the middle school with 14. I don't believe a 13-year-old 9th grader should be in a high school with a 19 to 20-year-old.
Right.
I don't believe the students are ready. So we got some structural problems that I know need to happen, and we got some people problems. So those two things need to be shifted. The same thing with the city. I believe that we've had some people problems and still do have some people problems in the city government, but I believe a part of our problem is structural. That the way that the whole system is structured is producing a predetermined effect, but we always just focus on the people. We focus on this guy, that guy, this lady, this lady. We focus on the people all the time. We don't look at the structure that we're in. And so we must look and analyze both of these structures. Has the middle school structure worked for us? I say no. I think all 9th graders in the whole school district should go to a school to themselves. Because at 13 years old, you're in a really, really serious position where you're starting to develop for your future. And I don't believe you're ready to go to high school. I just don't believe. Now some are, but as a whole, and I don't want people to think that I'm talking specifically about them or their child. The comments I'm making are about the district as a whole. 27,000 students, 5,000 administrators. So don't take it as he's talking about me and my situation.
Right.
My comments are about the district as a whole, and we have a long way to go. We got some structural things need to happen, and we got some people things need to happen on all sides. Another issue that'll happen is if the accreditation is lost for 1 year, all athletics will be cut in half. So think about that. You lose your school board. They appoint a conservator.
Right.
that's in charge of everything.
Everything.
One person makes all the decisions for the
Dictatorship.
whole school district.
Right.
One person, appointed by the governor,
Dictatorship.
is in charge of every decision about everything, about all your children. Appointed by the same people who are trying to, who have been, who created the whole prison system in the first place. People come to Mississippi from all over the world to learn how to run prisons.
Yeah. That's one thing we know for around the world.
Around the world, we're
Around the
known
country.
for prisons. Parchment is
what we talk about.
in some places heralded as a success. About the 200 years that it's been in play. So what we have to do, as far as education is concerned in Jackson, is not be New Orleans, because right now in the city of New Orleans, they have so many charter schools in New Orleans that that I don't believe they even have even 10% of their schools are public schools. The whole city of New Orleans. So they're just copying the playbook of cities where they've been successful at this activity from around our local area. We don't have to look that far away for an example to show where this activity comes from. And let me give you a little history lesson of why we're here. After World War II, they started to figure out, well, how can we privatize prisons? And they figured it out. They can make money off prisons. They can start privatizing the military. And they said, well, hold on. If we can privatize the military and make profit off of it privately, if we can privatize prisons and make private money off of it, there was a big old pot of money called education in this country of America. And they figured out how to privatize it through the charter school system. And that's what's happening. They're privatizing for private profits to be made off your children's backs. Mm-hmm. That's the whole purpose of a charter school. These are New York Stock Exchange companies that are feeding the global economy and pushing these charter schools to even happen in the first place. So our issues aren't just the people we see, right? Our issues aren't just, Dr. Gray has some issues, but he's not the root of our issue. The economics of our school district is a huge economic generator. We're talking about the school district spends more money than the city. The biggest thing we do, the biggest check we write in this community is to our education system. And other people want to control it. They want to control the economics. Look at all the school districts that the state has taken over. And people tell me how many of them have become more successful after state takeover. The money flow changed, but the education hadn't went better. When they opened the Delta, taking over all those schools, has Delta education system gotten better?
Yeah.
Right. The money flow changed, and that's the target of Jackson. But we got to fix what we can fix. Children using cell phones in classrooms, we can fix that. Mm. As parents and as administrators, we can fix that. Children sleep in class, we can fix that. Bedtime, right? Bus on time, we can fix that.
Right.
I lead real basic. Some people call it rudimentary, but my leadership is real basic. And Mac, you work for me. I pat you on the back, I kick you in the tail, or I leave you alone. That's how basic my leadership is. Because I learned a long time ago, over a whole career in the military, if you get real good at patting the right people on the back at the right time for achieving, if you get real good at identifying people who have potential and who don't have the proper motivation to reach their potential, and you have to, push them, and they may not like you, but it's for their benefit. And then the ones who don't have the potential and aren't striving to get better and aren't achieving, you start to figure out how you're going to replace them. And you leave them alone until you replace them. And you get better and better at that as a leader, and your organization will turn. And that's what we need to do. We need to pat some folks on the back who are working hard and busting their hide to get that to make the work happen. We need to kick some folks in the tails who need to who have the potential and aren't meeting the potential. And some folks need to be replaced. I told the union at the city that 20% of the city employees need to be replaced. Just hands down.
Right.
Yeah. Same thing with the school district. We need people. We need to seriously go through. And if you're not performing, you got to go.
Right.
Because the whole point is the children to learn.
Is it?
That's the whole point. And if they're not learning, the whole system is not functioning properly.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're on the verge of a state takeover. and JPS. And we're going to take a few calls now. Hello, call. Welcome to the show. Turn your radio down.
How you doing?
Hey, good.
Okay, you all are doing an excellent job. This is, oh boy, I tell you, you have really recapped it. And I want to ask you, be so kind that you don't leave the information that you recapped it, and I was working as well last night, and I was trying to actually wanted to get a copy of what Dr. Wright said. If by chance, what you recap, if we could try, in my opinion, try to have some town hall meetings, and maybe this literature can be given out, and we can develop a strategy in order to educate the masses. And you're saying exactly what I've been saying for decades. People have to know their roles. It is common time that we must pay attention to what's going on. Every person has a role to play, and if folks don't realize this is a free education you're afforded to receive. And it prepares you better for higher education, because in higher education, it is cost attached. And so in reference to higher education, don't forget your staff people in higher education, and we're valuable folks because we're on the ground. We're like the representative for the people. So a lot of times students are being able to be successful, graduate with different knowledge base for your staff and support person. So they need a way to have a career ladder as well, so they can have a liberal wage as well. So I do appreciate it. So please just try to get some town hall meetings if you can get this literature, or if you allow us to call you, or you put it so that we can get copies of what you just recapped, so we can try to develop a plan that those who are knowledgeable, we can educate others, because I refuse to let Jackson Public Schools not be number one like it used to be when I attended. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment? Hello, caller. You're on there. What's your question or comment?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. What's your question or comment?
Oh, I just wanted to comment, Councilman Stamps. I think we are far past repairing JPS. Dr. Wright's insight to what is going on in the district was nothing more than the formality of a state takeover that looms. It is apparent that the district has not adhered to the concerns of the citizens, the concerns of the state board, the concerns that many of us have voiced over the last several months. And, I hear everybody saying, well, we don't want to point the finger. You made the statement last night that you go to war with what you got. Well, we don't have anything to go to war with. When it was time to fight, we didn't fight. And now it's time to wave the white flag, surrender the district to the state, and allow the state to reconstruct the district. The board has not operated when you talk about a trustee, the trustee's job, the board of trustees' job, is to ensure that the children and the public receive the best quality education and to keep the public informed. That entire board has not done that, okay? They have not done that, and this is not a jab at you, Councilman Stamps. You my guy. I love you. But the mayor appointed the board, city council confirmed the board. When we saw the district going in the way it was going, when we heard the alarm, when we heard all of the things that were happening within the district, nobody sounded the alarm. Nobody came to the battlefield and said, let's go to war with getting this district back on the right track. And so now you have a district that cannot be saved. There's no possible way that they're going to change that district in 100 days, and they've had 3 years to change. It's not going to happen. Dr. Wright did what she has to do as a professional. That is to come and just do the formality part of it. Jackson Public School District will be declared a state of emergency by the governor. They're going to come back. They're going to get their findings. They're going to report it to the commission. The commission is going to vote, ask for the governor to vote and receive the vote to declare a state of emergency. That's the only answer at this point in the junction. And it's sad because you also made a comment last night that we don't want to look like blacks can't govern. But Dekeither, when you really look at it, we can't. We really can't. And that's sad.
Well, I appreciate your comments, and and over the months, I've watched your movement grow and be informative and tackle some issues, and we need all of it. We need agitation, we need cleansing, we need rinsing. It's all necessary in my book, and we need more people engaged. I remember when y'all first got started, people were asking me left and right, now, what do I think about? What do I think about, the whole movement and everything that the Cipher team was doing? And I was like, hey, I wish you could just turn to our community and say, go vote because it's important. Spend your money in your community because it's important. Prepare your child for school, have them in bed on time so they can get up and be well rested. I wish you could just say what to do and people go do it. We have to have a deeper agitation to even move a little bit. I wish you could just say the basic stuff and people just go do it and be done with it, right? So I believe that the value that y'all have brought is a deeper agitation that has spurred a degree of movement and engagement. So I do definitely want to sit down with you, and we've been trying to link up with your schedule. My schedule's been off. I've been in and out of the city for a while, so there's some deeper information I know that you need that will make you even more effective in what y'all are doing, and as we go through this whole process. Now, one thing I do kind of differ on is that if we're gonna go down, I'm gonna go down fighting.
That's right.
I'm not gonna roll over.
Never.
So I'm gonna go down. If it's gonna be taken over, it's gonna be taken over, and I'm gonna drown trying to swim it up. So So while it may seem at a dire point, I believe that there's still a few things that we can do that will move the needle, and also buffer the system to give us enough time to move forward. But we can talk about those things offline. But I appreciate you coming. Let me catch some more of these callers.
I appreciate you, man. Have a blessed one.
Yeah. So continue to call in. Here we got another call. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Oh, how you doing there, Mr. Spence?
Hey.
I was going to ask you a question. I don't know whether you ever thought about it. I've been listening to you for a while, and I think that you're a very knowledgeable man, and I really think that you should run for mayor. I really think you will make a difference in Jackson, seeing the current state of our city government, how things are going, and I really appreciate you. And I hope that you consider that. I think you will do an excellent job. That's my comment.
Thanks, brother. And I appreciate the support, brother. When it comes to mayor, running for mayor, I'm young in politics. It's my first term. I'm only 40 years old. So the person who preceded me was 40 years older than me, Mr. Blunson. So I think there's time for that. I think it'll be a little bit too divisive right now. But let me catch the next caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Yes, Councilman. So, would you provide us your number? Because again, I agree with you respectfully to the other caller. I refuse to not try because we have the knowledge and we're equipped to make sure we have a turnaround. But what we need, in my opinion, first of all, we've got to require the board to make sure they're being transparent. And maybe you can, at some point in time, if someone we can have town hall meetings. But city, when the mayor or whomever is at law, that they automatically get the point, and I guess you all approve maybe, but maybe come before the citizens and also to make sure that the right folks. I want the board to put their bios on the website, put the timeline that these violations or whatever they call it should be rectified, so we can follow and hold folks accountable. But what happens is sometimes they say parents are disengaged, but we don't have the proper information, and it's a maze trying to find out this information. If you could recap what you just recapped, put it so that we can see it, and so we can analyze it. We can all come together. I'm talking about over the holiday season, and then we can get this thing turned around. We have some good folks that have the knowledge, and then we spend the time and put it in, and let's rectify this, because this is affecting all of us in the long run. Anyone who's listening on the sound of my voice, if you work in Jackson, then I challenge everyone, be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Let me also, I appreciate you, sister. My phone number, we're moving to a toll-free system because we've been working with the homeless so much that they want to have access to give us a call as well with pay phones. So our phone number is 1-855-335-3484. That's 1-855-335-3484. That's 1-855 Dekeither. So 1-855-335-3484. You can call it, you can text it, you can fax to it, all one number. There is people who say they calling us back. We get so many phone calls that it's hard to catch them all on a daily basis. So we're trying to move to a system where we can at least track everybody and track our missed calls so we can call you back. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment? Turn your radio down, caller. Okay.
How you doing?
I'm well. What's your question or comment?
My comment is, I agree with you. It's not time to wait no white flag. That's a poor attitude. It's just time to get back to the basics. There's no fancy, no pointing fingers. Just get back to the basics and look things square down and just go ahead on do what needs to be done. You got too much cutlets. You got people don't want to say what needs to be said.
Right.
And it's just like Brian said last week on the show. Stop telling the people what to do, and that's what you can do to help. Nobody looks after nobody no more. Everybody want to point a finger. What you need to do sometimes is just be quiet, listen to people that's trying to help you, take that in, and go from there. You don't criticize all the time. You just getting back to basics. It's called tough love.
Yes, sir. You're truly right.
You have a good evening.
Yes, sir. And so let's talk about a few things on the actions, right? I talked about it earlier about how I think the system is wrong. We need to go back to the junior high system where the sixth graders are in elementary school and ninth graders in junior high because they're not ready to move up. But at the basic level, a prepared student and a prepared teacher must meet in the classroom. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
My comment is this. We don't really have the type of leadership that listens to the people. You know, our leadership tend to think that they are the ones to tell us what to do instead of us telling them what to do. You know, when we go back to when the schools were first integrated, the black schools started out on 1. The white students were up there on level 7. They were ahead of us, and we have never had the funding that the white schools have had because of the way that the system was stacked against us. Now, a lot of people don't want to even talk about that, but we got to talk about it. When black children were receiving 11 cents for their education, white students were receiving 75 cents for their education per pupil. Now, where are the people that are going to talk about you are not funding the black schools? You have never funded black education. So why do you expect us to be at the point where you are when we were never given the opportunity to start at the same level that you have started at? And until our black leaders began to say, where is the money that was promised to all of the schools under the Equal Education Act that was passed years ago? Where is that money to improve those schools? See, our leaders are keeping their mouths closed about the real issue. They want to talk, give their opinion. No. Listen to the people. You know, when we say we want this, we want that, this is not right, you're setting us back, you don't listen. The only thing that I am hearing people that are going to be running for office They want to give their opinion instead of listening to what the people have to say. And Henry Kirksey and others years ago told us we are not getting the money that we should have in the black schools. And until our leaders start talking about funding our black schools, giving them the money that's necessary, I mean, I don't even want to listen to it because they're not doing anything but running their mouths. They don't know about the history of the state, how black schools have never had the proper funding. And until we have leaders that will stand up and say, where is the funding for the black schools? Thank you.
You know, and to that, I do appreciate all of our elders who called in and talked about the history of our schools and funding. We had an amazing opportunity 2 years ago when we were discussing education funding with Initiative 42 and we started off getting the petition signed, and then we moved on with
the ballot initiative.
And then we got on the ballot, and then we tried to get people to come out to vote for it. So, you know, I know from my office, I can't speak for all leaders, you know.
Right.
I speak for our office and what we do. We've been pushing education funding because she's totally right. Without the proper resources, we can't execute in the same way that the ones we're competing against execute. So, you know, when money from the state is important, they have to put it into education. They should. I've been a proponent of suing the state for underfunding education. So let's get this last call before you get off there. Hello, call. You're the last caller. What's your question or comment?
Yes, as you mentioned before earlier in the podcast, the things that we control as discipline, being well prepared, and showing up, being respectful, those things we can be, and being obedient, and being respectful toward one another, that we can control. So I encourage folks to seek out resources. We do have a lot of things, because we are in the 21st century, but we just take advantage of the free resources that we do have available. But just be respectful, respect your teachers, be prepared as you make an well-prepared classroom. That we can control. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you, dear. I appreciate it. And everyone, you know, I know this conversation was a little more forceful than our normal conversations, but I'm passionate about this stuff, and I get amped up, so I don't want to think that anybody think I was going to talk over or be mean to nobody, but I'm trying to be serious and let you know how serious the situation is, because we cannot fail at this task. We have been failing, and we cannot fail any further to go down the pit of failure. And we must take action. We must move forward. A well-disciplined child must meet a well-prepared teacher in a magical place called a classroom. That's what must happen. It has to happen. If it doesn't happen, the future of our city and our state, because it's not just about Jackson. Jackson's just a big target. They're coming for all of it. Crystal Springs, Brookhaven, Port Gibson, all of them, Hattiesburg. It's not just Jackson. You know, so we got to move forward to make sure that what happened in New Orleans doesn't happen in Jackson. That's it right there. You got a whole school district full of private schools, full of charter schools. I'm sorry. You know, so we can do this. I believe in the parents. I believe in the teachers that are out there. I believe in the principals. And some people do need to be replaced. But we need to do that together. We don't need somebody from the outside coming in doing some replacing. We can do this ourselves. Now, as always, everybody, you know, I know it's election season coming up and everything, but, you know, all white folks aren't bad, all black folks aren't good. Use a little discernment to figure out who you're going to build your village with. Also, never let anybody put you in a position where you don't love your own people. Because when you hate your own people, you're part of the very oppression we're trying to lift ourselves out of. And I want you to take that seriously. I say that for a reason. When you hate your own people, you're in that very space of oppression that we're trying to lift ourselves out of. So, you know, I love you, Jackson. I love you, Mississippi. Stay tuned in. We're going to keep the conversation going on the internet, on Facebook Live and those things over the next couple of days. So stay plugged in, stay tuned in. We'll see y'all next week. God bless. I love you, Jackson. I love you, Mississippi. Hey, stay tuned in. We're going to come back in a little bit.